And we have liftoff. You are listening to a Chatter Effect. Again, these are not interviews, people. They are conversations. Welcome back to the table, Mr. Paul Celestin.
Good to be here, man.
This is an epic episode. This is number 40.
That's impressive. 40 episodes already?
40 episodes in. Yeah. And just so you know, according to the numbers and the all-powerful interweb stats,
Sure.
Your podcast on the TED Talk and the Visit to Rome, folks, I don't even remember what number that was. Do you?
No, I don't.
Sure. If you Google Chatter Fact, how to TED Talk, find that because it's all about my journey to Rome, and I did a TED Talk, and I talk about the entire process. You can hear that, and Paul Celestin is not only a great sounding board, but also just a clever wit to have on team. And listen to that. But anyway, that particular episode is the number 2 most listened to episode of Chatter Fact. Out of 40 episodes, you are number 2.
That's impressive. And this is 40, which means that this podcast is old enough to break up with its wife and start dating a much younger podcast.
This podcast right now is eyeing convertibles and looking for younger models. Yes. So anyway, folks, you are in for a treat. I talked about going to China not too long ago. And not many people get that trip. Some people do. Many don't, though. And it was a very unique experience for me. I couldn't believe I was able to do it myself. So I got to travel to China to perform a bunch of shows there with the band Final Say and this other big, giant group. They call it Talk of the Town, by the way, when it's this 14 or 16-piece orchestra.
All the
all
strings,
the
horns, everything.
But anyway, I went to China, and I made sure that I experienced some of China. I got to look around. I mean, what an interesting place. And to be plucked out of America, right in the Midwest, right out of Chicago, and to go to China, a place I never thought I'd be able to visit, and to sort of just be dropped into the culture. I mean, I was taken care of with, I had transportation and sound checks and all that. One side of it was very glamorous. I had the fancy SUVs and people picking you up and handlers, so to speak, right?
Sure.
And anything you would want within the confines of this hotel, which was very fancy and wonderful in Shanghai, right?
Okay.
That was great. But then outside of that, I just went off the reservation and I went deep in and I got to look around. So ladies and gentlemen, you want to know what China's like? Listen to this one, all right? Let me do this right off the bat.
Sure.
I don't know what this is called because I don't speak Chinese. Oh, never mind. It's also written in English. Mulberry Liquor. It's a Chinese liqueur that I picked up. And just mainly I bought it because the bottle looked really cool.
It does look good. I honestly thought it was cologne.
But it does kind of look like cologne,
there's a little bit of an
So
Old
take a
Spice
swig of that.
Sure.
And cheers to our China episode. Right. What do you think? Cheers,
It's not bad.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm your mulberry. Doesn't work the same.
Oh, you know what? That is not bad.
Yeah,
and
that's tasty.
I think it's more wine than anything, even though they call it liquor.
Is that what's going on?
I don't really know. I don't know.
Right.
But, folks, so we're going to get into this. As you guys all know, if you've listened to the past episodes, one of my favorite people on the planet is Mr. Paul Celestin. You've been cited many times.
Mutual thing.
Writer extraordinaire, clever wit, and all-around good guy.
And I just plan on staying silent this entire episode. Right.
Now, here's something else you guys should know. We are in I'm just going to call it a haunted mansion.
It is
right?
definitely a haunted mansion. Yeah.
Oftentimes, right now we're in the middle of a run where I have something like 23 shows this
busy
month,
guy.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm spending more time in the car than anywhere else. And you, of course, just walked into a new job downtown Chicago, so you're commuting. You're going insane. Your life
and
is
we have
insane.
those. We have spouses. We have those adorable tax deductions that we call children.
All those little tax deductions running around the house. So between the two of us, we decided, all right, we're going to have a daycation, and we're going to just hang out. And we came to Geneva, Illinois, and Paul, God bless him, found this. It's a mansion, and 1902.
It's a mansion from 1902,
Okay.
and they've converted all of the rooms into, I guess, individual hotel-esque rooms.
Yeah,
but like you were pointing out earlier, I mean, all of the decor, everything is just old. It's old. It's haunted house-ish.
It feels like you stepped into a time warp, and is it Oscar and
the Oscar Swan Inn.
The Oscar Swan Inn in Geneva, Illinois. And I think you're dead on. I think in maybe some of the fall months and winter months, it's probably great. But now there just happens to be nobody staying here.
Yes,
this time of year.
Yes,
and it feels haunted.
Right, especially because there's they have no staff tonight because we are the only guests in the entire building.
No other guests or staff.
No guests are here. They gave us the key and put us in the room and then said, "See you in the morning if we last that long."
I'm getting a Scooby-Doo vibe. Like we're going to be chased by ghosts in the hallways, man.
True story. When I first got here, I pulled up into the driveway and the older gentleman who co-runs the place, which lovely man, but I had never met him before, so I pull up and I'm looking at the haunted house vibe, and he was literally putting together a chainsaw on the porch. And I thought, well, this is it. This is how I go.
But wait, and then didn't you say he didn't even say a word to you?
No. And I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm here for your inn. And he kind of nodded, and then he pointed to the door and just went back to his chainsaw.
Oh, man. And we walked through the place. I took some photos of it. I'll post it on the Chatter Effect Facebook page. But it's beautiful, yet a little creepy.
Right.
Let's not lie about it, right? It feels haunted.
One of us is going to... I think one of us is going to the other side. Not that way. I mean, it's a brothers on brothers trip, but I think one of us is crossing over. There's no way to make that not sound dirty.
The gay intonations have been all day as well. What did they... Right. They didn't realize we're brothers, right?
No.
You booked this place, and you beat me here.
Right. So, which, again, sounded worse than you meant it to sound. But when I got here, I introduced myself to the lady, and she was like, "Oh, I've been expecting you and your male companion." I was like, "No, it's my brother. We're brothers."
And we both live under the, not that there's anything wrong with that,
right.
but we don't happen to be that. We're brothers, for God's sakes. Even if we did lean that way, we're brothers,
Right.
But it's just. Yeah. It's funny, and we have the same shared love of so many different songs. And when I finally got here, we were going to go to this amazing coffee shop that Paul found, which is in St. Charles, Illinois, which bumps right next to Geneva. By the way, Geneva, Illinois, St. Charles, Illinois, anybody that's ever coming to the Chicagoland area and you need a getaway that's just beautiful, go, because it's amazing. There are amazing spots and restaurants. And then Paul's like, "Oh, I know you're going to like this one."
This episode brought to you by the town of Geneva, Illinois.
It's this. Paul starts playing this song by En Vogue, and it's such a great song. Giving us something you can feel. And I used to love that jam. And as soon as he plays it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's right." So then cut to anybody walking by his truck, and two dudes just like jamming, like, "Oh, yeah, feel that." And then you just hear, "Giving us something he can feel."
And then we both got the rings on. We both have the wedding rings on. So we look like an adorable honeymooning couple.
Oh, man. And this place would be romantic if it wasn't. It just feels like we're going to end our days here, though, man. It's cool. And they have the rooms. They're not named after. It's not like room 12, room 13. It's named after like the last people to stay in the rooms. I think
it was the original people who grew up in the house in the rooms. Probably the people who died in the rooms.
We're gonna see ghosts.
We're totally see dead people. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Now another thing that you guys might find interesting. Here's a character study. We came here to have this kind of brothers daycation. I needed to get this podcast on the books because the China trip happened months ago, and I've just been trying to figure out the schedule and all that good stuff.
Yeah, but with the time change, it was like last week. So
before I even get into China, like being there, I'm going to jump to the time change.
Okay, did that mess you up?
There is a jet lag, which I've only...
How long? Trip, how long?
The trip is 14 and a half hours. Okay, so people going there, not so bad. You get there and you're a little off, but I mean, barely the first hour. Do you feel weird? Then you're fine, right?
Okay.
So then I'm coming back. Now, I think when I left there, it was like a 3:30 p.m. flight, and then you're in the air for like 14 and a half hours, but then when you come back, it's basically 4 p.m. So it's just a body, mind, it screws
that
everything
would mess
up.
with my world.
I met this wonderful engineer who travels a couple times to Shanghai, and she said, going back is going to kill you. And she said the jet lag will last for a week. So I came back from China, and was just off. When I woke up finally in my own home after a night of sleeping, I woke up. I was in my home. I could see that I was in my home. I knew that I was there. And I walked to my living room, and all I kept thinking was, well, I guess I have one more day. I should go look around.
No way.
I thought
really?
I was still in China. It is the weirdest. I can't fully describe it, but all I know is for 5 days, you wake up not knowing where you are. You just feel off, and it lasts 5 days.
Now, is it just? Do you think it was just because it was the long trip to get? Because like
the combination. I think the combination of the long flight back, and I was there for 8 days. So, I'd say 3 days in, 4 days in, I really got used to that timetable and that timeline over there. So I think the combination of the weird switchback, but I don't necessarily understand.
Because like when you hang out to see the family for a few days in Indiana, that doesn't happen. You're not like, where am I? What's going on?
Mom, Dad, where's everyone? No, I don't know. But it was a strange vibe. So just so you guys know, if you're going to go to China, well, let me say this, just like I said about Rome from our Rome episode, go. If you can, go. Because it's totally worth it.
Okay.
My wife came with me to Rome, and she loved every second of it. I had a gig in Hawaii. She went to Hawaii, loved every minute of it, right? She knows that there's a couple of days that she's not going to be with me because of sound checks, and the schedule out there when I have shows can get a little insane till the shows are done. And she knew that, well, she would be alone for a couple of days.
Right.
And she just felt like, I don't know if I'd have fun all by myself in China wandering around. She totally missed out.
Really?
It is awesome. So people, if you can do it, go. I hear Hong Kong is even... not more interesting, but it's fun because everyone speaks English in Hong Kong, or most people do. Okay. For some reason. I don't know what the reasoning is, but I don't know.
So 14-hour plane ride.
14 and a half.
14 and a half hour plane ride. Mm-hmm. If I recall correctly, when you were in Canada, rough customs, one guy.
Yes.
Right, Canadian customs. What are Chinese customs like?
Now, the Chinese customs, interestingly enough, the customs are weird in America. So we had
get out?
Right. We had all this paperwork to do in America, and we had to go through the Chinese consulate, and there's one in Chicago. And then after that, it was a walk in the park.
Okay.
Which I feel like from now on, whenever I sing abroad, we should... do something. We should work on the paperwork beforehand, because we talked about when I went to Canada, which is like the friendliest country in the world. I went like, what are you doing here? What's this all about? I'm like, what? Aren't you guys all friendly? Like, shut up, eh? No, it was a little trickier, but I didn't have a bunch of paperwork. I just had to explain why I was going.
And this time you were here in my documents.
I had like a work visa and everything, but I think that China in general is a little more strict. This is weird. Everybody who went over, we get these emails if we have to do shows in other countries, and they give us little tips or whatever. And one of the tips was download this, whatever this app is, so that you can, the same way if you're a spy and you have to bounce satellites for your phone call, right?
Okay, sure.
There's a version of that for the internet, because China apparently has a problem with like Google and Facebook and Instagram. Way. Yeah, there's something going on. I'm not sure exactly what. Who knows, right? So they don't like people checking in and whatever it is. So Google and
you had Facebook, like underground internet?
Well, Google and Facebook were basically, it felt like they were outlawed when you would get there. So you had to download this app, and it would somehow make it look like you were using a server somewhere like in America.
Really?
And we were told that a lot of the natives of China, that they use this as well, so they can use these apps. Isn't that crazy?
So does that mean when you were on your phone and you were like, "Hey Siri," she was like, "No, don't say my name." No. Wow.
Hurry, tell me what you need. Siri, open the door. Open the door. And they come in. Like,
oh, poor Siri.
Well, the nearest coffee shop is. You'll never take me alive. Yeah. No. Well, so here's something interesting. I thought, this sounds complicated because I'm not really a technical guy.
Yeah, I'm not.
And I thought, I'm not going to do that. The app, it sounded like there was you had to pay for it.
Okay.
Or it's one of those things where, or you can try like the month, whatever, free trial.
Sure. And then I always forget to back out of the trial.
10 years later, you're like, I've been paying for this.
Still there. Yeah.
I think I'm still paying for like Columbia House Records at this point.
Yeah, that's how I got suckered into my first marriage, honestly. I forgot to back out after the 30 days. There's fucking...
So I decided, screw this. I don't want to. I just
really.
Yes.
So you went like tech free while you were there?
I thought I'm going to go dark. I'm just going to go dark, and then I'm really going to be, in China. And I'm afraid of this because my phone plan has a pretty good plan where it's kind of like you get there, $10 a day. You basically bring your entire plan overseas, right?
Okay.
But I thought, well, I'm not going through these loops or jumping through these hoops of whatever it takes to get online for some of these apps. I get there, and the first thing that happens is we're in a bus. The bus is taking us to the Kapinski Hotel.
And then someone says it can't go below 55 because there's... No, sorry, go on.
No. That did not happen. But I'm on the way there, and once we're, on Chinese soil...
Wait, Kapinski?
Yes.
It's a Polish hotel in the heart of China?
I didn't think about that.
All right.
It makes a lot of sense because it took the staff like 5 of them to get the one light bulb in when I needed a new light bulb.
And we just lost our Polish listeners. Damn it. Egg rolls and blumki.
Oh, man. I seriously, when I was a kid, I had nothing against Polish people or blondes, but for some reason, growing up, there were so many Polish and blonde jokes.
I don't get, and I really don't get it. It's kind of like Nickelback. Like I know, according to pop culture, I'm supposed to hate Nickelback, but I'm this photograph. I'm not gonna lie, man. That works for me. But I feel like I have to like Siri and I have to hide in a closet apparently in China to listen to Photograph by Nickelback. Yeah, I've never understood the blonde Polish.
Yeah, I mean I'm personally friends with some very intelligent blonde people.
My wife is blonde.
There you go.
And I always love to tell people that she's a dirty blonde because that's technically the hair color. So yes, I married a dirty
naughty.
Blonde, right?
Oh, that's naughty. Yeah, but I mean, one of my favorite. It's just a terrible joke, but what did they say? Like how do blondes like delete on the computer? They use whiteout or how do they
sure. Oh, there's tons of them.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah. But anyway, that was the name of the hotel. Get this though, while we're on the bus and we're heading to the hotel. I still have my phone, and it's activating, and I see Facebook, and I see Instagram.
But you're not supposed to.
And I'm like, what? Why is this showing up? And everybody else went ahead. Excuse me. Everybody. Oh, no, maybe the cyanide's now kicking in from the... It's timed. Whenever he talks about it, he will perish. No, everybody on the bus, on the tour bus, they bought this app, whatever it was. I did not. All of a sudden, I'm seeing the apps pop up. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then I post something, right? Mm-hmm. And then I start getting nervous. And we get to the
because
hotel.
You've just angered China.
Yeah, well, I feel like this is it. Like they're going to knock at my door. Like, Mr. Celestin!
Hey.
We saw the Facebook page. Down on the ground. Put the phone down. Kick it to me, please. I thought that was going to happen. So I get there. I'm using the apps. And then I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to just keep using them. And I don't know what issue China had with Google. There's something going on there.
I have no idea.
Well,
we could Google it, but not from China, apparently.
So then I go downstairs because we get this kind of per diem, but I think I got American money, which doesn't make any sense. They had
probably made in China anyway, so
fair enough.
Right.
I went to this cash machine that would turn it into Chinese money and all that. I mean,
was
not
it
technically.
yen? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and then something else that I can't recall. But thank goodness, while I was in line. Again, my technical stupidity is often a help more than a hindrance because it seems to lead toward these other paths. The technical stupidity stopped me from getting the apps, and suddenly I could log on to these sites without buying it.
Were you able to continuously log on?
I was doing it. Well, I stopped because I thought for sure I'm getting arrested. I thought any minute I was going to be in the hotel lobby and just sirens were going to come in.
Wow.
And there's that movie Red Corner, where Richard Gere's in it, and he suddenly finds himself on trial as an American visiting in China, and he's under their rule and their regime. And there's, there's strict laws. If they're not your laws, they're so foreign, and it's tricky. I mean, there are some countries out there where it's scary. Like, oh man, he stole the milk and he killed that person's chicken, so naturally we have to cut his tongue off and remove his hands, right? So I didn't want any of that to happen, but I was expecting the worst. I'm like, well, if I let go, I'm not going without a fight. It
was the Bruce Lee movie where you would have had to do the flying jump kick at the shooting gallery.
Guards, the Chinese Connection.
Right, Chinese Connection. There you go.
I would have screamed, Facebook! Yeah. But anyway, while I'm in line and I can't figure out how to get my money out of this machine, the guy behind me is seeing my struggle, and he gives me some tips and helps me out. And anybody in these hotels, I'm trusting just about anyone because I'm sure they all make more money than I do. I get put up in these great places to sing, but then there's CEOs of companies next door. And he was a huge help, and he visits often. And I wanted to walk to the 7-Eleven. There's a 7-Eleven in Shanghai. Yeah. And I asked him, hey, about this whole app thing? So he says, oh, no, for some reason, just this last week or two, it seems like they've pulled, the restrictions. Really? And I think the reason, or at least he thought the reason was...
Because Final Say and Robby Celestin
were coming Celestin's like, you ain't know how that guy posts on Instagram. We can't miss out on this. Remove the bans now, immediately. Robby Celestin is coming to China. No, but partially that's the reason in a way. I think tourism... They started to see, we're missing out. People love to check in.
Sure.
And this is going to hurt tourism here, especially a place like Shanghai, because that place was just built for tourists. It's amazing. So I have to try to pull up my notes here because one thing happened in our Rome chat when we were talking. There were a few things that I didn't take notes on. I think maybe the Trevi Fountain or one of the things where I'm like, oh man, in that fountain. And you're like, oh yeah, I don't know anything about it. You tell me about it.
Right.
I think I just went,
this is the fountain with the place. There's water.
There's water. Let's move on. Yeah. So I tried to take a few notes when I went to China. But anyway, those were some of the interesting things. I mean, when you get there, the people, it's very interesting. It's very different. Lots of smokers in China.
Really?
Shanghai.
I wouldn't have expected that.
I felt like 1 out of 3 people were walking around with cigarettes. In this day and age, you don't always expect that, but there they were, everywhere you went. Another thing, and these were some tips.
Smoking in buildings still, or no?
No, I don't feel like not in buildings. No, no, but any outside area and just walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah,
tons.
Lighten them up.
Yeah, and now we were told, we were given some tips too on just the culture.
Okay.
One tip was, don't cross the street frivolously. Be careful because the cars have the right of way.
Interesting. Really?
And let me tell you, man, when you are crossing a street, every car driving on the street, there's drive, there's reverse. They have a gear. They switch to I don't give a damn. And they're going to hit you. There's no slowing down. There's no polite pause.
Having driven through some major U.S. cities.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Oh, yeah.
I might
New York,
be okay with
New
it.
York has a little bit of a Chinese culture in it.
Wow. So the cars have the right of way.
The cars have the right of way. That's a thing.
I think that's like step 1 to the machines taking over, by the way. It all begins with...
That makes a lot of sense.
Skynet starts with the cars.
But Volvo, you were my friend. Volvo, no, please. Volvo?
Right? It's all over.
Okay, so let's see. All right, that not only do cars have the right of way, people have the right of way, but only when walking into other people.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Now I got very lucky. Let me backtrack a little bit. I got to find this guy's name. Christopher Fortson. All right? He's a teacher, and I met him on the plane, and he gave me some of these better tips, by the way. He was better than the company emails I was getting.
Oh, wow.
I sit next to this kid. He's like 23. He's from St. Louis, flying to China. He was going to live for 2 years in Beijing. African-American kid, 23 years old, speaks fluent, I believe, Japanese and Chinese and Cantonese.
Wow.
And prefers living in Asia to home. He just feels more at home out there. He loves the culture. And he'd been going out there even through his college years to teach English. And the kid
What did he speak again?
Yeah, Chinese, I believe Japanese, and I believe Cantonese. I think.
See, and I trip over the word aluminum. By the way,
he was going to go to Chengdu. And what's really cool is he's going to teach English there for a year. And hello to Christopher Fortson. Thank you for your time and your tips, by the way.
Hey, Christopher.
He's also hoping... Oh, here it is. He speaks Korean, Chinese, and Japanese. He loves the idea of going to Chengdu, which is a small town, but it also happens to be the Chinese hip-hop capital of the world.
Of course it is the Chinese hip-hop capital. Chengdu. I feel like I've heard of that in most hip... Chengdu. Yeah, that works.
Girls, you better watch out. Those cars are gonna knock you out. They have the right of way. Yeah, it's the new hip hop tune that he's working on. Yeah, so he was heading out there and he had some tips for me. And he also said, this is interesting, he said that the people have the right of way in a way when they're walking. They will not get out of your way. They won't slow down for you when you're walking. Sidewalks are just as bad as streets.
Okay.
They won't even acknowledge you. You don't smile to people out there and say hello or hey,
Really?
There's only a facial greeting if they know you personally. If they are not your friend,
there's nothing?
Forget eye contact, forget like a smile. Not only will they not really look at you or acknowledge you, they will walk through you. I was cut off by more old ladies than I've ever even heard of. Yeah, cut off. Walk right in front of me. Yeah, it's really weird. So the cars and the people will run you over.
That is so strange. So no acknowledgement at all.
Nothing.
So not even the nod.
Nothing. Oh no, not you can't do the sup.
Yeah.
Can't do the sup nod. No.
Well, you don't do that one to strangers. You know that? I always. So it's always no. So all right. So boys and girls, this is your life lesson here.
Oh yeah, let's learn.
When you're doing the nod, right? If you know the person, you nod up, right? Like if I know you and we're not exchanging words, but yeah, you nod up. But if you don't know the person, you nod down. It's almost like tipping your hat in respect.
Wow, you know what's weird is I feel like I do that naturally in life, but I wonder why or who set that up. Where the hell do you learn something like that?
I'm not sure. It might have been from Siri, but obviously not in China.
Is that why your Siri doesn't work? She hasn't come out of the country yet?
No. Android, real phone.
Oh, there it is. Oh, the Android people are going to start emailing Paul Celestin and giving them free stuff now.
Yes.
So that is interesting. Besides it's weird because it's a beautiful country, by the way, and the people were great. Shanghai felt like Guardians of the Galaxy. It was lit up. It was great.
I saw one of your illegal pictures that you posted.
It felt like a city of the future. What I didn't like is some people were comparing it to Vegas. It's a little more like Times Square meets Blade Runner. I can't say Vegas because as much as Vegas is kind of cool, whatever they've done out there, it doesn't seem as... I don't want to say there's a cheapness to it, but there's we just put this thing up kind of amusement park vibe.
Sure.
The Shanghai thing just felt too legit. And not only that, the lights and the effects that they have are 10 times fancier than maybe any city I've seen, including Times Square, which is amazing.
Okay.
So it's lights and it's lasers and the architecture.
And this is Shanghai.
Shanghai. Man, people just start Googling Shanghai architecture. Even just the way the buildings are built.
Newer built? You're talking newer
yeah, I think mostly newer construction, sure. Just the shape of the buildings. Chicago is still my all-time favorite skyline.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And now I've been to most major cities with cool buildings and skylines, and there's something about Chicago. The thing that I love about New York is that it's never ending, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
But just pure architecture and the look of it, I love Chicago.
Right.
That's my jam, Shanghai, though, is unlike anything I've ever seen.
So kind of the, antithesis to your Rome trip.
Yes.
Okay.
But, yeah, absolutely. And it's I can't even describe the shapes. That's why I say Google Shanghai architecture, because it was just... strange and interesting and beautiful, but really, it just looked alien to me. Yeah, hands down, it looked like something out of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Not bad.
Why not? I guess, but I wonder it must be the whole just different culture, different side of the world.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
You look at like an American throw rug from, our earliest years and like a Chinese throw rug, totally different. Well, we're probably looking at one in
I think
here.
there's one over there in the corner.
There's one over there.
Might be floating across the room right now.
So that's interesting. Let's see what we have in here now.
Did you notice anything weird on any of the interior of the buildings? Are they just as kind of weird and avant-garde? Or
what's kind of cool is that with the exception of the hotel, I wasn't really in any of those buildings.
Oh, okay.
I'll get to that, but when I went inside a place, it was usually some ancient village, which is kind of cool.
That's
awesome. A whole other thing. Yeah. But it's interesting. I'm trying to think of the. Well, then let's get back to 7-Eleven, by the way.
Yeah, so you're making your way to the 7-Eleven.
There's a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, an actual 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and let's talk. And I can segue into language barrier in Shanghai. You don't know what anyone's saying, and there's a lot of tourism going on.
Yeah.
So with tourist towns, they can pick up a lot of English and they can help you out because I guess they have to, or they see that
know where the money is
coming in.
Yeah.
Right? In Shanghai, I didn't know what anyone was saying, and nobody knew what I was saying.
Really? Not a lot of English in the...
Nothing. I expected a lot. I expected a lot.
Yeah, because like in the movies, there's always that one guy who's like, "Hey, buddy, I speak American," Like he's always there.
I had no sidekick. And so I go to the 7-Eleven, and I've been doing this thing lately. I can't remember if I mentioned it to you in the past, but I don't know. I was at a grocery store late at night after a gig, and I found this cold oats. It was basically oatmeal in a container, right?
We were talking about
it.
Yeah,
it's got like a neat little fruit mix in there, cinnamon, whatever is in there. And you pour milk in it, you shut it, you put it in your fridge, and then the next day, hey, boom, and it's cold. And now when I'm going to my gigs, I was falling into this terrible habit of eating cheeseburgers because there's nothing else to eat or whatever. Now I keep this cooler and I have the cold oats going.
Nice.
So even for traveling, I feel like, man, I'm going to eat so badly out here. Let me try to pad it, with some help.
So were you looking for
I
oats?
needed milk. I actually brought oats from home, and I'll put some protein powder in there. Brought all that from home. Got through customs, thank goodness. And I was scared. Because all
Isn't
the
it like,
protein
7
powder,
ounces, 6 ounces
container? The protein powder, you can bring more in.
Did
when
your protein powder look like a bag of Coke?
Totally looked like a bag of Coke. It totally looked like I was bringing drugs in.
They
were in these Ziploc bags. And I even had some like stevia because I didn't know, so I had the stevia in there. Like I had so many drug-looking products in my bags, and I just felt like they're going to stop me and just look.
That's wonderful.
Because even if they're not sniffing everything or whatever, just looking through X-ray, like, oh, this guy's obviously a drug cartel. Yeah, so thank goodness. I think going there, they did go through the main suitcase, but they didn't tear anything up.
Nice.
But all I needed was one ingredient, and that's milk. I'm still a milk drinker. I know a lot of people are going off dairy and all those reasons. Whatever is happening there, I can't seem to let go of milk. I love it too much. So I walked to the 7-Eleven hoping,
for milk. I mean, it's easy.
So I walk in. There's a whole wall of milk.
Oh.
Or at least milk-like substances. It's cartons.
Okay, cartons are fine.
It's all in Chinese.
So you don't know what was milked.
Yeah, and even though most people don't speak English in Shanghai, one thing I did notice is when you're driving, every building, every establishment of business, bigger ones anyway, would have the Chinese title, and then right underneath it,
subtitles.
Bill's Restaurant.
Sure.
Every place you went,
I'm guessing.
Like, boom, Chinese title, boom,
Yeah.
Phyllis's shoe store,
Yeah.
But when you walked in, nobody spoke it. They thought
that's enough. It's right there.
Yeah, and Shanghai's like, this is as far as we're going to go for you.
I've done my part.
Yes. So I'm in there, and I'm looking at all these milk cartons, and I want skim milk. Okay. All right? I won't do the saturated fat as long as I can keep away from it. And nothing. There's no way. There aren't numbers. It's all just
and no
Chinese.
Pictures, no like skinnier cows or bigger. There's nothing to help you out.
If there would have been one carton,
right, just with the skinny cow,
just the one cow that like happens to be jogging,
a little bit.
Oh, exactly. That guy looks fit.
Right,
I'll bet you this is skim.
And everything's good.
No. Even like a cow, like just taking some money off the cash register at the bar it works off. Like, oh, he's skimming.
Right. Oh,
and skim milk.
I didn't know where you were going, but that works. That's nice.
That would have been a good sign. Oh. Nothing. So, and there was one carton that said something like a milk-like product. in English. And that was it. I'm like, well, what is... I don't... Yeah, there's a fake teat on the other end of this.
I think I accidentally rented that movie once, too.
So I grabbed 4 cartons of milk, little ones.
Did you get all different ones?
All different colors. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, this one is light blue. And in America, it seems like baby blue.
Yeah, light blue is the skim milk.
Yeah, so I grab all of them, and I'm walking over to the guy. Oh, and there was one product. It was like a chai tea milk drink.
Okay.
And it was great.
Really?
Like, I ended up drinking a lot of that on the trip. But so I take all the cartons. I go up to the guy. I sit it all down. And if you don't have cash on hand, there aren't any other ways. Like the credit cards didn't work either. I was very surprised by that. American credit cards, which I can use. I've used all
almost
over the
everywhere,
world.
right? Yeah.
They weren't taking that either, so I had to keep going to that cash station. But anyway, I bring all the stuff. I set all this milk on the counter, and then I pick the one baby blue in hopes, like, come on, this is baby blue is universal skim, right?
Did you have a moment where you just looked at the shopkeeper like, English? Wait,
well,
English?
As soon as I started talking to him, and he looked at me just with nothing, and then started answering in Chinese. I'm like, wow, nobody's going to speak English to me. All right, I see that. I mean, at one point, I was looking at the milk, and there was a little old lady next to it, to me, just fascinated, watching me. And I even looked at her like, hey, you speak English? And she just walked away.
That would have terrified me. And she was probably sitting there like, why is he staring at all of that rat poison? Why is he holding the rat poison with the cereal?
Well, I asked the 7-Eleven barkeep.
Sure.
I say, is this skim? He goes, oh, and he takes it from me. He goes, oh, yeah. And he starts walking away and opening it up.
Oh,
I'm like, no,
like you bought it for him.
I don't know. I don't know. And like, does skim mean open? I'm like, no, come back. And he's like, whoa. And I'm like, just, I'll take it all. It all. So I bought all the milk on the counter that I could carry, and then carried it back. And to this day, I still don't know what type of milk.
You couldn't tell what was what?
I tried to guess, but everything, things. Also in China, there's barely any ice. They don't like ice cold drinks. Everything is like room temperature or just cool.
I was very, very south in Mexico, and it was a similar thing.
Really?
Yeah, everything was very room temperature.
Okay, yeah, so that's the thing. I don't quite understand it, but what are you going to do? All right, so let's see. What else did I see? Oh, yeah, in all the giant buildings, by the way, when you're driving through, a ton of more hanging clothes than I've ever seen anywhere.
Hanging clothes?
Yeah, like to dry.
Oh,
and these are like skyscrapers,
like the old 1940s gangster
old school
movies
style, yeah. And a couple of them even had like interesting devices where you can tell, like, oh, that's kind of a weird pulley system or something. So I don't know if dryers are scarce in China.
No,
but there were so many hanging clothes and tons of bikes and mopeds everywhere,
really?
More than anything else, bikes and mopeds.
Huh.
And you would see like one guy riding a moped, and he would have enough lumber on the back of this moped. I mean, it must be like maybe 8 feet in width, and maybe 8 feet in height on a moped. You don't even know how it's balancing on there. But this was
like he was carrying the lumber?
Riding it on a moped.
What the hell?
Yeah, so that seemed to be like their main mode of transportation.
Mopeds, bikes, and then hanging clothes out to dry. Was it like all types of clothes, or was it just sheets?
Clothes, straight up, like, oh, there's a Bermuda shorts, and there's some pants, and there's a T-shirt.
I almost want to bring that back. I don't know why, but just because.
The language barrier was never a problem, though. So here's where we have to get to. We have to get to the beauty of this, because the place rocked. I mean, I would gladly go back. In fact, I didn't want to leave. I wanted 5 more days,
right?
Because I loved it over there. It was great. And I walked into a restaurant. And this is all the restaurants, basically. Again, nobody speaks English.
Sure.
The restaurant literature was all in Chinese. So once you walked in,
any
again,
pictures
outside,
on the menu?
Outside, it's like Chinese title, and then, Martha's Hot House or whatever. You walk in, nothing. But tons of pictures, though. Restaurants
so
had
that
pictures.
helps.
So then I was able to, like, okay, let me...
Nice.
But you have no idea what you're saying. You can barely get figures out for money. And they don't know what you're saying, and I don't know why. It seems almost scary to be alone walking around in China. They don't know what you're saying. You don't know what I'm saying.
Sure.
For some weird reason, they were just so kind, and they seemed to get a kick out of it as much as I did.
Huh.
And they were never mean about it. And we got there.
Sure.
And it was fun.
Well, I was going to say, I guess it's kind of a fun thing, especially you. I mean, you're very good at reading body language and reading demeanor. So talk about having to switch on like a completely different, communication switch
like just
in the brain.
That.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. But they were wonderful. I walked out of these experiences in some of these stores or restaurants where I was just lost. I mean, it's the extreme version of fish out of water. But then you figure it out. So you walk out and you seriously, you just felt good.
Yeah.
I laughed and I thought, this was awesome.
Nice.
They're so friendly with the fish out of water.
So as long as you weren't crossing the street with them, they were
fine.
friendly. They
Yeah.
were friendly
It's
people.
like, as long as you're indoors, you're okay.
Yeah.
Crosswalk, the same friendly teller would...
We're going to kill you right now.
Yeah,
We're going to run you down.
Yeah. But inside,
and then I'm going to spit on you and throw my cigarette at you.
in that order.
Right, and drive away cackling while I drink skim milk.
Right.
Just laughing at you.
But then if you parked and then went to your place of business and I crawled my injured self in there after you hit me, what do you need in Chinese?
Right, come on in. They'll show you pictures.
So that was really interesting.
What was the food like?
Oh, man. So China is all about dumplings. And it's like a real thin skin, whatever the kind of... it's a pastry of some sort.
So for people who don't know what a dumpling is,
it felt like pasta.
Know.
It felt like a ball of pasta. And this is super interesting. It's filled
stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like I've had a random dumpling in America, and it's just meat or whatever.
Uh-huh.
This is filled with soup and whatever your choice is. So, I want the spinach. Okay, but it's spinach, but it's also like soup in there too.
Really?
Yeah. Now, Morgan Hare, I spent, out of the 8 days, there were at least 2, maybe 3 solid days where I got to hang with Morgan.
Nice.
And Morgan Hare, look her up, fantastic vocalist, my stage wife, basically. I spend most of my time on stage with this woman, and she was out there with me. We went to a dumpling place, and neither of us know what's going on, but we're looking at everything. We over-order.
Oh.
There's a technique to these dumplings because of the soup.
So, I guess you don't want to pop them? You don't want to...
What I did was I'm like, I guess I'm just going to pick this up and bite it. And I'm pretty good with chopsticks, right? But I didn't do the chopstick. I just went, as soon as I bite into this thing, Morgan Hare is wearing soup. I just go, and it's all over her. I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, that's wonderful. What kind of soup? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
I'm just curious.
It was delicious.
Nice.
I had a little bit of it. And
it was nice of you to share.
Yeah, I was just trying to share. Like, take this, but in your pores, on your arms and your shirt.
Hello, neighbor.
And then a lady comes up to me, one of the staff, basically yelling at me, like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? But in Chinese, I could tell.
Right.
And she was yelling at me with love.
Morgan Hare has lots of worldwide fans.
Yeah.
Just to be fair.
So the lady comes up to me. She's like, no, in Chinese, but she has this kind of no.
Here, American.
And she took like a chopstick and she pierced one of the dumplings. And then there was a little kind of spoon thing, and you sort of drank the soup first, and then you bite the dumpling, and they're delicious. Now they feel heavy. You're not eating healthy.
Sure,
it feels kind of greasy too, but they were good. They were really good. And but then I looked at another one and kind of bit it a little bit, and I'm like, well, this one's not so bad. So I'm like, this one I think I'm okay. So I just bit into that one, and then Morgan Hare wore that one. she's like, what's wrong with you? She just told you what not to do. I'm sorry.
I love that because the soup didn't get on you the first time. It was perfectly okay to say,
"This is gonna be all right.
One more is gonna be fine." My mama didn't raise no quitter. I got one more in me.
So dumplings, I mean, anything else was good, but the dumplings were extra special.
Are you good with chopsticks?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Just because I've been able to delve into it, and Japanese culture is more sushi.
Okay.
So I've been to a lot of sushi places in Chicago.
Sure.
And I don't know, it's funny, except for noodles. I think I was with you when you saw how terrible I am with noodles.
It's a bowl of ramen. I believe that you would.
Yeah,
that was.
And I never realized that. I guess I never ate noodles with chopsticks. And I'm telling Paul, come on, man, let me show you how it's done. And then nothing. Just made a fool of
that
myself.
was beautiful.
But speaking of food, though, the food out there is very. There's a big Western influence out there. By the way, tons. There's a lot of Starbucks.
Really?
And I didn't get to visit it, but the biggest Starbucks in the world is in Shanghai. Yeah, and I didn't visit it, but you could just see there's a huge Western influence on the town.
That's interesting.
To the point where I was told that some of their more ancient decor that was up was taken down for whatever.
Oh, wow.
A subway sign or things like that.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'm not as nuts about, because what's theirs is so beautiful.
Yeah,
so
old.
I mean, they kick our culture. Butt. Yeah. But the main thing I was really walking away from is I don't know if there's any other country on the planet that I could go to where they don't speak the language and I don't speak the language, where they're just so friendly and loving about it. Because I've been in pockets. I've been in other countries where most of the places I went, they knew English. But then when I encounter the one or two people that don't, it's not always pleasant.
Right, but you were able to communicate.
It just happens, and it's not easy. Like you're struggling.
I feel like France, because all the mimes. They're all the mimes in France. I feel like even though no one's talking, you should be able to still communicate.
Yeah,
with
but France in particular, it seems to have like an "I hate American" or they are not crazy about us.
I don't know that portions of America are crazy about America at the
That's
moment.
true. That's true at the moment.
Either
right.
way. So
I heard Jerry Seinfeld, by the way, talking about that because France has a very popular kind of rough attitude toward Americans when they're out there. I have not been, but I've heard enough stories that it's just they're rude to Americans apparently.
Sure.
And Jerry Seinfeld is the only American I ever said or ever heard of who's okay with it, because Jerry says, "What? Why not? Like, if you had all that great stuff and these foreigners were showing up,
right?
I didn't want them over here either." Like, okay, all right, good, fair enough. Jerry Seinfeld,
nice.
So let's see here. All right, I went through. Okay, great. So I'm peeking at notes, folks.
That's fine.
There's where I was the Magic Land. That was the Blade Runner, whatever meets Disney World, and there's Shanghai Disney out there as well. So there's just all that influence. It's very interesting, all the influence that they have out there. Oh, let me backtrack to restaurants. And then they can do certain American restaurants better than we do.
Like?
Well, I did go to a McDonald's. Now, this wasn't an example of this because I needed to try.
Did they have the weird or the different like international menu?
Like an eel burger.
Oh, did you supersize it?
Well, I actually found myself getting a cheeseburger because I wanted to know what the cheeseburger would taste like in another country. And it tastes like a cheeseburger, but different. There was something.
Really?
And you don't even know what. Is it because it's imported? Is it I don't know. It's people, if you're there, you got to try
the cheeseburgers
just
were
a
different.
McDonald's cheeseburger because it's just different. It's almost like you went to another dimension or something, and it's just not quite right, and it's close.
I feel that way about LaCroix. Are you familiar with LaCroix?
Oh, the
drink?
Water drink?
Yeah, because LaCroix tastes terrible. If you ever drink LaCroix, and they have flavors, it's like strawberry and apple and pear, and it's not like strawberry LaCroix tastes like if I were trying to describe to somebody what strawberry tastes like.
Oh.
Yeah. So is that kind of what was going on?
I guess so.
Is it like this is what a cheeseburger should be, and then they just made it? Or
man, I'm having a hard time
putting your finger on it.
I can't describe it. Yeah. But bottom line, I did
Probably
not have
lack of skim milk in the burger is what I think.
I did not have a bad meal out there, though. Okay. Every meal was.
Did you try anything that was out of your wheelhouse?
Definitely.
Like, this is.
We went to kind of their version of a burger joint, and let me go back to Morgan Hare. I have to give her so much credit, because I planned on having one day to hang with Morgan. There was this tour that a bunch of us were supposed to take. I can't remember how it worked out, but anyway, people took a different tour. Morgan and I took this one tour through a water village, and it's basically the Chinese version of Vienna, and so it's on the boat. It's so cool.
Nice.
But kudos to her. Before that happened, I'm skipping ahead, where I give her credit. I knew that eventually I'd be on this tour, and I knew she would be on it. But what I did not plan on was the day trip on the subway. So I was planning on just trying their version of Uber or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just jumping in a taxi cab. And I thought, well, let me just get dropped off in the middle of the city and just make my way and see what happens.
That's adventurous of you, by the way.
Well,
you don't speak the language. You can't use your credit card.
Because they were so wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the price, by the way. I take out $300, their money. It's like $50 American.
Oh.
So that was nice, too. You're not spending as much.
Yeah.
But while I'm going out the door, there's Morgan Hare. And she's going to take the subway. And I give her a complete hell no on that. Like, what? No. I don't know why this is scarier than to me just getting dropped off.
Subways just have a weird vibe to me.
Yeah.
I think it's all the 80s action movies. Like, subways were just a scary thing. I've never been on a subway. I'm sure there are lovely subways, but subways kind of freak me out.
And then there's a certain navigational aspect to them that always scares me, where I feel like, oh, will every stop be, or do I have to transfer? Even in Chicago, like then the brown, and you switch to the pink, but then then the sky blue and the deep purple, and it's always weird. And most people I know in Chicago are great at it, but I've just never dove in that much. Anyway, so I thought this is
subway.
Yeah, and Morgan said, let's just figure it out. I'm taking the subway.
All right.
She had me half convinced.
Yeah.
But then she says, it's basically 50 cents to like get around. And I knew I was going to pay much more for my taxi. Then she got me. I'm like, ooh. Well, maybe this
50 cents. Yeah.
It's not a bad idea after all.
I have been talked into a lot of bad decisions because because they were very inexpensive. Yes. Yeah, that's fine. All right.
No. Well, so we go in the subway, and it was...
Okay, wait, I'm going to pause for a second.
Right.
Because there's no English write-in.
Right.
And you don't speak the language.
Right.
How the fuck did you plan on using the subway?
This is where the 50 cents got me, because I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Well... She did some research on a few of the sites.
Okay.
And she thought, there was some kind of ancient temple she wanted to see. And at least that actually might have been in English, just the sites.
Okay.
And some of the street names were as well. So once you just kind of, you had to kind of memorize which street you were going to end up on. But it wasn't that different.
Okay.
And man, it was streamlined better than any subway. It was better than New York, better than Chicago. Hands down.
Huh.
For one thing, if you were to ride certain Chicago public transportation, you do feel like you're on a covered wagon, and there's like
yes,
right?
Yeah.
You've been. This thing felt like glass, and it wasn't one of those magnetic trains, because they have the magnetic train going on now, and a bullet train, where it's just it's magnetized, and it's just boom, yeah. And I know that's supposed to be even faster, because the bullet train's out there too, the 200 mile per hour or whatever it is.
It's my nickname in high school. For all the wrong reasons, too. It was bad. Yeah. Not the nickname you want.
You want to get off me, Bullet Train? Are you done?
I already am. Sorry.
Fine. All right.
Hey, 4 of your friends can ride at once. Yeah, it was bad.
However, so we get on this train, and it feels like you're on glass. It's like, it's the smoothest running thing. And then it's futuristic. There aren't signs, and signage on the walls is something that you'll see on any subway.
Okay.
Whatever advertisement, paper advertisement, and it's signs.
Yeah.
The windows all of a sudden just light up, and they become like these live high def videos.
Really?
And you're looking at it like, oh my god,
commercials,
like commercials, moving pictures. So it's video, right? And you're trying to figure it out. Like, what is the biggest screen of all time out there? Like, I didn't see a screen when I got in. You don't understand what's happening. This is brilliant. It looks great. Looks like high def. It looks cool. It looks like images are just coming out of thin air right outside the windows of the subway train. And then I did some research on it. What I found out was there's, maybe a line of 160 HD TV screens, and they are flickering the images. And the images that are flickering are perfectly timed with the velocity of the train.
Holy crap.
So as it passes, it becomes a moving picture. How badass.
That's impressive.
Isn't that tough?
Wow.
That is super. Yeah, and it looks great. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So then we suddenly get to kind of a village area. And Morgan and I both sort of started a little too late in the day, though, so wanted to see some sort of ancient temple.
Okay.
Oh, that didn't happen. It was closed. However, we're in it.
They close the ancient temples at a certain part of time? That seems weird to me.
I know. What's that?
We've existed for centuries. No, it's past 6 p.m. I'm sorry. Come back tomorrow. But Buddha...
One of the oldest structures ever known to mankind, and you will come here and honor it, and then... Oh, hey, it's 5 o'clock, Charlie. Turn off the lights.
Wow. All right. But either way.
It's like Happy Days or something. Close up when you're done, all right? Yeah, no, that's exactly, I guess.
The closing of the ancient temple. That's amazing.
I don't know.
But I just want to go in. No, the temple is closed. But it's like married life or something. The temple is closed. Sorry.
Yeah, but, so let's see. Where do we go? Oh, that's right. So we got to see, what was neat, though, is we still ended up kind of like in this little downtown area, and as we were there, maybe we missed a temple, but we went to maybe what would be considered one of their burger shops.
Oh,
and that's where I got this kind of eel burger.
Weird.
Yeah, that was. Oh man, I need to know what was the sandwich on this thing. It was really strange. There was this guy. What was it? It was something intestines. Oh, because I was asking like, well, what is that you garnish on top of the eel burger? And he's like, oh, no. And the guy spoke a little bit of English.
Okay.
Like, it's he couldn't say whatever it was, but then I asked him, well, what does it taste like? It tastes a lot like, like goose gizzards, goose intestines. As if I would just know. Like, oh, of course, that old nugget.
Goose intestines. Yeah. At that point, were you hoping and praying that was just like a language barrier thing? Like, no, he couldn't possibly mean goose intestines.
The one guy who speaks English is saying everything I don't want to hear. I would have rather somebody just like nod and hand it over.
Yeah, where's the smiley lady? Bring her back.
No, so it was kind of like this eel burger. And it had, kind of a fish sauce on it. It was delicious.
Was it really?
And it had the bun. It had a strawberry bun. Strange. It was
like a donut?
Breaded, but it felt. I don't know. It felt like a very doughy bun that you would see anywhere. Like just more doughy than most, but it was all red, almost pinkish, and it had a little bit of a strawberryish flavor. And then there were strawberries, I think, in the burger itself, but it was delicious.
No kidding.
The coolest thing about this was we sat outside. So you're on a street, and it was a busy street in Shanghai, and you're seeing a lot. And it wasn't like a financial district thing. It was more like, oh, here's clubs and restaurants. Mm-hmm. And the sun goes down, and we saw Shanghai come to life on a Friday.
Ah, that had to be amazing.
Yeah, we saw just more of a family vibe as people were passing by when we first started eating. But then it quickly got darker, and then we saw the landscape change, and we saw the party people out. And just watching it was just interesting. You're seeing slightly different clothes. There's something
like different lights as they're coming on in the city.
There's something to be said about the fact that it's similar to Western culture, and yet it has its own Eastern culture to it. So it's totally different, yet similar enough. There's so many parts of Shanghai that felt beautiful and wonderful, but it felt like just a weird funhouse mirror.
Really?
Yeah. And the other thing, check this out. Every car that passed by, because you mostly see mopeds and
all
bikes.
Made in America?
No. But every car, all the BMWs, it was all like Tony Stark cars.
Ah, okay.
Every car was super fancy.
Wow.
You didn't see any junkers.
Sure.
The only junkers you would see is the mopeds. You'd see state-of-the-art, like souped-up mopeds, and then you'd see like
which is just a weird thing to say, by the way.
Yeah, it would
state-of-the-art souped-up moped.
Seriously, it looked like.
Did you see any motorcycles?
Like the Jetsons? No, didn't see any motorcycles.
Mopeds.
All mopeds, and they all kind of had a Jetson vibe.
You think they have moped gangs?
They must have. Well, I would almost feel not necessarily gangs so much as like maybe classes like Road Warrior. Yeah.
Sure.
Like, we are the Death Squad.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had, but then there would be this rusty, old, run-down piece of junk. So you would literally, it's like you could tell, like, okay, that's owned by the Jetsons. That's owned by someone from Futurama.
Sure.
And that's Fred Sanford's over there. Like, it was all the different classes. It was really interesting. But the cars were only stellar cars. And what I found out there was there's so much paperwork involved with owning a car, and I guess so many extra fees. And I think they make it really hard to own a car out there because they really don't want that many cars on the road. They prefer the bikes and the mopeds.
Okay.
So if you do own a car, you have some bank. So you're getting fancy,
so you're getting
fancy
the best
stuff.
of the best.
Yeah. So Tony Stark everywhere.
Huh. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and the food, again, all the food was good, but at some point you wanted at least one thing from home.
Yeah, so were you able... I mean, outside of the McDonald's cheeseburger-ish...
We're walking around, we ate more dumplings than we'd ever want. We wanted so many noodles, but then there was a Pizza Hut.
Oh,
and it is the best Pizza Hut I've ever been to in my entire life.
Now wait. Is that...
China does Pizza Hut better than America does Pizza Hut.
Now is that because at that point you were just dying for something American, or was it truly? Was it truly the best?
See, now that you say that, I wonder if it was like a weird mirage, and I fantasized about how this played out.
I'm just curious here because...
No, I don't think so. They had the most pimped out Pizza Hut you've ever seen in your life.
Really?
You walk in, and it's a very nice restaurant.
Oh.
Super nice.
Okay.
And then you look over, and you see other people eating and drinking, and you stop, and the first thing I noticed was, wait, is that a drink? That guy's having...
Like an actual cocktail?
Yeah, that guy has a fancy... And it looked fancy. Like a mixologist did this.
Huh.
And then you look further, and you're like, what? He's eating a steak. That is like a prime steak this guy has.
What the...
Right, so then we walk in, sit down, and I just order like a regular pizza, whatever.
Sure.
Normal fixings on it. They had some interesting things, but I wanted something as close to home as possible. And, of course, I ordered a mojito.
Nice.
So when in China...
when in Shanghai...
if you're in Shanghai, you must be at a Pizza Hut to have a mojito.
A mojito. Yeah.
So you get there, you have the mojito, which was excellent.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Good,
and then the pizza comes, and it's better than any Pizza Hut ever. In fact, it's one of the best pizzas. I prefer... I mean, it's two different classes. I like thin crust pizza if the sauce and the cheese is right. And then I also love that ever so special Chicago giant deep dish heart attack maker. Like, I love that. Well, there are a lot of places on the north side of the city of Chicago where it's thin crust, similar to like a New York style, but they use these crazy fresh ingredients.
Right.
The toppings are very interesting. Yeah. And there's one place called Spaccanapoli, which is just... It's amazing. Okay. You would think they must be freshly making everything here. That's how this Shanghai Pizza Hut pizza tasted. It tasted like high-end. Even just the dough was perfect and melted in your mouth. The cheese, everything was high-end and perfect.
Pizza Hut.
Yeah, was it Demolition Man maybe?
Yeah, where Taco Bell won, and they were the only restaurant in town.
So then the Taco Bell they went to was like super fancy. Right. That's what it felt like. Like, oh my gosh, Pizza Hut won. They won the fast food wars.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was super fancy, super fantastic.
English? English speaking in Pizza Hut?
Barely, but yes, a little more.
Okay, enough to get by.
Yeah, really, realistically, man, I mean, I encountered English maybe 8% of my trip.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, I mean...
It's hard.
I guess so. Yeah. But I was surprised because of the tourism factor. So, we're going to take the quick eye blink, folks. We will be back in 1 second. All right. I forgot how to say goodbye, so I'm just going to say hello again. Ni hao. And we're back. That was the eye blink for you guys. A couple of minutes for us to stretch. So I'm going to jump right into some of these notes here. Because then, obviously, we did the show.
Right.
I'm not going to... No need to really talk about the show much. That was
fun. You sang, you danced. It was wonderful.
Yeah! That was about it. But we got on a tour bus, and we got to see this water village. Now, the water village was called... There it is, Zhaojiang. The Zhaojiang Water Village. Venice of China. Absolutely gorgeous.
Okay.
And here's what I liked about it. I think it was maybe $100 a person, maybe.
Okay.
And you were there it was like a 12-hour ordeal.
Oh, wow.
You drove well out of Shanghai. And when you get to this village, it is a village. It's old school. It is beautiful. It's amazing, and it's the Venice of China. You get over. It's lined with nothing but shops and markets.
Okay.
So you're seeing all this ancient stuff and all that.
Sure.
But then there's the lady in the boat. It was a lady. Strong.
Just with the long
Yes,
bow
and I still don't
thing.
even know how it works because it looks like she's going sideways with the thing when she's standing on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. Like
And
Enter the Dragon when
Yes,
he's off
yes.
the big boat.
And you always wonder, like, why is it going forward? Shouldn't it be just
right.
going in circles when they do that? But she's going sideways, and you just go through this beautiful thing. And at first, it seemed like a bad idea because of the rain. It started pouring.
Oh.
It was totally cool in the rain. You were covered, so
Okay.
they put a cover up, and there's something you're watching. This little Chinese village and rain fall upon it. It was, absolutely amazing. Yeah. And then we end up at this market. And let me double check. We end up at the Eel Garden Bazaar.
You Garden Bazaar.
Now
I've been told that I Garden Bazaar like once or twice, by the way. But, all right. You Garden Bazaar.
This is a huge market. And it's like this visual and cultural explosion. It
Okay.
feels like so many lights, so many storefronts, and it really is tough. The sights and the sounds. You hear music, you hear the voices of everyone, and the lights are moving, and there's so many structures, and they seem just right on top of each other. It's you're standing still, and it feels like everything's moving fast around you.
Oh, wow.
It's like nothing I've ever seen. So it's crackling with all this energy. And you just walk through whatever types of shops and drinks and food.
Sure,
Again,
sure.
it was warm, and I had such a hard time unable to find
everything's-
a cold drink.
Right,
But
right.
there was something interesting that wasn't of Chinese descent. There was a Turkish ice cream shop.
Ooh.
And everybody was lined up against this thing.
Oh, because it's the only cold thing in town, it looks like.
Solid point. I didn't think
Right.
about that. Everyone's lined up, and I get in line, and I go right up to the wherever the guy.
I don't think ice cream when I think Turkish. I think coffee.
To be honest, the ice cream was kind of rubbery and
Okay.
but totally worth the price of admission. This guy had like a weird stick, and on the stick it was like the ice cream and a cone, and he just held the stick out. It almost looked like one of those sticks with the cone that you would put out a candle with, sort of thing.
Sure,
Ever see those?
yeah.
The extinguisher.
There's multiple.
You hold your hand out, and the cone ends up in your hand, and then all of a sudden it's not in your hand. And he's doing these flips and almost like sleight of hand magic tricks.
With the cone?
And all you're trying to do is just grab this cone, and you look like just a knucklehead. You look like
kidding.
and I kept thinking, all right,
I got this.
now I got this. And I would go full on. And he's flipping it around you, flipping it. It's upside down. It's under your hand. It's in your hand. It's back in your hand. It's out of your hand. So amazing. It looked like a ninja ice cream cone server. So Turkish ice cream in Shanghai, make sure you need two people. You need somebody to get it, and you need somebody to film it.
Really? Is that good? Huh?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Morgan here, I believe, might have shot a little bit of it, and I can't wait to post some of that.
I have to ask the question. Mm-hmm. Turkish gentleman? Chinese gentleman?
Turkish.
Okay.
It was all
I
Turkish,
didn't know
yeah.
if like Turkish was the name. Like this is Mr. Turk. So okay.
And
Nice.
it's weird because speaking of that, all of a sudden people seemed fascinated with foreigners. There were certain foreigners.
Oh.
I think myself or Morgan, they were a little fascinated by just the darker skin here and there.
Sure.
Not as much as like the kid who I was on the plane with, African American kid.
Right.
That there's certain pockets of China where people are just taking pictures with him like he's a
No
celebrity.
kidding.
hmm There's another guy named Jeff Lowe who was a bass player. Now he wasn't on the gig, but he's married to Jen Lowe, who was in charge of our string section. We had 3 violinists on the gig, and he is very tall.
Okay.
And when he went into certain villages, they
just swarmed him?
marveled at him, took pictures with him.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, I don't know. It's like they looked at me like I was kind of crazy big Viking walking through their town. So it's interesting that they see something so different.
Sure.
That they had to. Yeah, it's strange. But the marketplace. Let's get back to the marketplace. This was really, really nuts. I learned to haggle.
So haggling for price of
Yes.
things?
And-
All right.
A buddy of mine, one of the guitarists, Sam Varma, he did some shopping in the market the day before I did, and he said, listen, look at this hat I got. And it was a real cool hat. Like they're charging $30 for it, and I know that this is not a $30 hat.
Sure.
And I just kept haggling and haggling. I got it to $12.
Huh.
Like, really? He goes, make sure if you go to the markets, you haggle with them. Do not pay what they give you. So
Okay.
I've never been good at that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's not in our culture. Like, I don't get to walk into Target
Right.
and be like, no, I will not pay $12 for this, beeswax chapstick.
Yeah, I've always been, same thing. It's not going to be like, no, come on, man, these tube socks.
Right.
Come on, I'll give you five. Yeah, not going to happen. So I tried it for the first time, and I
Did you
can't
feel
remember
weird?
what it was. Absolutely.
Were you like, no, I won't pay
Yes.
that?
I felt like such a wuss. I'm like, well, maybe.
So what was the item? What did you pick up?
I think
what did
there
you
was
decide
there
to go
was
in on?
where it started was a little charm, little dragon that I
Okay.
wanted, and I went in and maybe they were asking for like, again the figure for them, whatever the money was called, it was like $380.
Okay.
Which obviously is cheaper American.
Right.
And you're looking at it, and I see the price. I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay more than, and that's just shy. I'm not going to pay more than, 300. You know what I felt like? I felt like that movie Back to the Future when he's supposed to be a tough guy and get the guy, hey, get
Right.
your hands off her. It didn't feel like I'm not doing this right, And then all of a sudden something clicked.
And you were like, the hell with this.
I came up with the line that worked. And once it worked, I got cocky and I used it every time.
What's the line?
I would decide how much I want to pay for it, right? And then I would just say, 200. I have it in my hand. I will give this to you right now. And
that worked?
If you don't give me that.
Because that is totally my bedroom line, by the way. I have it right now.
Hey, right now. I'm going to give this to you right now. If not, I'm walking away.
Right.
This is where you sleep. Yeah, I'm walking away. Walking away.
Out the door.
Yeah, but it's midnight. There's nowhere for you to go. I'm gone.
Someone else is going to be okay with this.
I will take this elsewhere.
But that worked for you.
Where I'd you know what?
Really?
I'll put this in your hand right now. If you take 200 for this, I will give you 200 right now.
Huh.
And then, I became a little more aggressive with the way I said it.
Sure.
It worked every time. I bought this kind of cool shirt that you might have seen a picture of.
Yeah, I did see the
same thing.
I named your price.
I go and I just kept using the line, I'll give it to you right now. I will put this in your hand right now. If you let me have it. One person did not accept it. It was something I can't remember what it was.
Dishonor their family and their clan.
It was this little kind of dragon from the village, because I wanted to make sure I bought something from Shanghai. I bought a little view of the skyline, which I saw from my hotel, and I wanted to remember that.
Sure.
And haggled for that, by the way.
Yeah.
But then when I bought, I take it back. I apologize. That was the first thing that I bought, and I bought regular price. And then I learned to haggle, and from that moment on, nothing. But I bought like this little, little dragon thing from the water village. Same thing. She wasn't going for it, though. And then I said, okay, well, that's fine. And I just walked away.
Oh.
And as I got to step number 6,
Did she do
sir. I'm like, I had this down. And it took a lot for me not to want to come back home.
By the way, I have to say,
haggle.
and your daughter, my niece, who I adore, is going to agree with this. Your haggle voice is your parent voice, my friend.
Oh, is that my
totally your parenting voice? Yeah.
So had it not been for being a dad,
Right, you
I
might
wouldn't have
not
that gear.
Might not have haggled at all.
Wow.
Yeah, that's something.
I can hear it now
Yeah,
that you say it.
Yeah, that's your parenting voice.
But then you get almost addicted to it. Then it becomes sport, and that was the problem,
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, jeez.
So I find it interesting that suddenly the people in the marketplace English, because you're haggling. So
Well, they knew, like, wait, sir. They were
okay.
like, oh, no. Or the numbers. They were able to get the numbers.
Okay.
Somehow but not all of them. There would always be kind of a good cop, bad cop. There would always be the person who you're trying to haggle with who wouldn't understand, and then the second person would come into play. And to be honest, they never felt like you got over on them, which means
Yeah.
They probably even could have gone lower.
Probably.
Because they were never like, ah, damn it, you got me. You know, and I never felt that. I just felt like, all right, there you go.
So when they called over the second party, did you have to, just to like one up them, did you like grab Morgan at that point and let her step in and be your second party?
I should have done that. No,
Yeah,
what's
totally
weird is that her
tag
and
teamed
I, we did the village tour together, but not together always.
Ah, gotcha.
Because we were kind of like, hey, you go over there, I go over there,
Right, right.
So I wasn't next to her often,
Okay.
which I could have used her because she's rather spunky.
Yes. Which, speaking of Morgan, so the weirdest thing,
Yeah.
and I feel terrible saying this because you're my brother, I love you, but I really wanted you to like inadvertently walk into a fight while you were in Shanghai, just to know,
Like, how would you hang in the?
I mean,
yeah,
are they
yeah.
all? Are they trained? Are they all?
You would think,
there-
right? It's funny because of all people, it was one of the players were talking about that because he'd heard that I trained
Sure.
with the family and like we dabble in the martial arts, and he thought I know nothing about that stuff, so I'd never mess with you. But don't you think if you ever like mess with somebody here, they would just laugh like, psh,
Well, that's
like,
the thing.
We only give you like maneuver 1, 2, 3 for America, but we know all 88 maneuvers. That's what he thought would happen. Like I would get taken out unless I could go like all East Chicago on him though. Like but you don't know this woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that like Shanghai, some small village in Shanghai when you're ready to throw down, like that's where you would get shot. The guy would have a Glock or something.
They're like, why is this guy fighting? Has he not heard of the gun? What does he think this is, a movie? He probably thinks we all know the martial arts.
We invented gunpowder, bitch.
I'm like, I will fight you in the ancient ways. Do you know Kung Fu? Get my Glock. Glock? Is that? No, why would you even? Yeah, that could, yeah. We invented gunpowder, bitch. I think
There you
that's
go.
what it says over
Yeah.
the sign
That-
for the rougher areas.
That is.
No,
It's on their stamp.
Yeah, no, and you can't help but think of that, though, right?
You have to, just a little bit, and I don't know if that's wrong to think that, but like my experience with China was movies, particularly martial arts movies. And
It's not
in
even a
movies,
racist thing so much as it's how I want it to be in my
I
fantasy
really
world.
want to live in that world.
I want them to all
yes.
be ninjas. I want them to all be like
Yes.
amazing. Which you got to wonder. I don't know.
Like if you would have taken the haggling one step too far, was all hell gonna break loose? We're just gonna flip over the tables and
Like,
go
what,
to town?
what are you doing? What if she suddenly just starts? It's a guy. He just starts taking off his shirt because Bruce Lee.
Right,
Every
always
time he
took
fought,
off the shirt.
He had to take off his shirt. I
You
don't
haggled
understand
too
why.
much to some old lady, and then the guy steps in and he tells you that you have offended his family.
What are we doing right now? Yeah. And then a cage drops over us. Coming to the stage. Like there's an announcer now? This is a small village. It's not even electricity everywhere.
Oh, that would be
And
wonderful.
now, coming to the stage. What did I have here? We did,
What else?
And then the city of Suzhou.
So what was the city
This
of Suzhou?
was awesome. We visited the Netmaster Gardens. Now, it's one of the oldest, if not the very oldest, small garden in the entire country. They have gardens all over the place. But when you're looking at this little garden, it's they have a number of the small gardens. So I don't know what the time difference is, but I know that this garden was like made in the year 1140. Wow. So we're talking.
Just wrap your head around that for a second.
Yeah, and
Jeez.
you walk through it and the history, and that's a lot of China, which wasn't too dissimilar from Rome. You're just seeing beautiful architecture.
Sure.
And realizing the timelessness of it. Like, man, I am
Right.
stepping in a time warp. I'm so happy. I made the comment about how Shanghai, since it's such an advanced city, Shanghai is actually, it's kind of westernized, but you can see where they preserved what they needed to preserve, and I'm so happy they do, because it's a beautiful place.
And talk about a weird existence where it sounds like on one side of, whatever, the map of Shanghai, as ancient can be,
Yeah.
and then as futuristic and
Yes.
advanced as advanced can be.
That's the beauty of it. I love the fact that I got to see like the Guardians of the Galaxy Blade Runner world,
Right.
and then drive an hour out, and suddenly I'm just traveling by
Like on
boat.
a race boat. And
Man, it's cool. So let me just tell everybody, make sure you get out there. experience China. And next on my list is going to be Hong Kong because I hear that that's Shanghai on crack.
Really?
Yeah, I hear that that's
where the fight's going to happen.
That's probably where the fight would happen.
Is that
where the what was the Michael Douglas movie?
Black Rain?
Was that in China or was that Japan? I can't remember. That might have been Japan.
I'm not sure. Michael Douglas, email chatterfacts and
gmail.com, chatterfact@gmail.com. But there you have it, man. By the way, we got through this really well because this is a daycation that we took. And before coming here, we went to a place called Eden on the River, which I highly recommend, and had only 2 drinks, but they were
magical.
They were rather powerful.
Strong. They were very, very strong drinks. But then we decided, I don't know why, to counteract the booze, that coffee would be a good idea, but lots of heavily espressoed.
They over-espressoed us.
They really did over-espresso us.
Some places I go where Janice, my wife, will ask for an extra shot of espresso, where this they just automatically, like, oh, you have 5, you have 10.
Yes. Oh, we didn't even haggle the price either. We should have.
I'm very happy with that, but I was telling you, I felt like when we first showed up here, I still felt like the remnants of like the drinks that
Were you a little buzzed?
Yeah, I felt a buzz, and I felt like we're in trouble because that last episode is one of my all-time favorite hangs. It was so great.
It's one of my happy places.
And I just felt like we were turning into Rocky 3, where he got really cocky, and he barely trained for the fight.
Train at all?
He had a band at the training thing. Yeah, everything's all right. Well, just have a good time.
It'll be fun.
Just try to have a good time. And that's how I felt like we're just gonna have some drinks and walk into the podcast.
Everything's gonna be great.
Clubber Lang, by the way, a Rocky 3, people, check it out because one of the best bad guys in the world. You know what I like about that? And this will be one of my final notes on this podcast episode. Is he was a real-life villain because maybe at some point when a lot of great movies were coming out just a couple of years ago, you gave me this note where you were very displeased with villains.
I was.
Yeah, because Clubber Lang never got nice.
No.
He was a bad guy, and he stayed a bad guy, and we hated him.
I want to understand my villains. I want a villain backstory that's great, but don't friggin' humanize my villains. Give me angry, mean, vicious. Clubber Lang
You
was
want an
wonderful.
asshole.
Yes. The guy from Die Hard. Great villain.
Yes.
Yeah, Hans
Asshole.
Gruber.
But
Yes, asshole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, even early Darth Vader, because they ended up getting nice with him too. Mm-hmm. But even though they tried to sort of humanize him, at least he got better. He wasn't better till the second he died.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you that one.
Because most of the documentation on him still leans toward angry, mean guy who just didn't give a damn.
Right.
And when we felt like, oh no, well, they try to humanize him in those earlier movies, but then you see Rogue One and like, oh no, that is
scary ass. Yeah,
the dude does not give a damn.
No, not at all. And it helped that like when the early movies tried to humanize him, humanize him.
Sure.
It was done with that Hayden Christensen guy who I kind of hated, so it made me more afraid and angry at Darth Vader anyway. It was fine. Right.
That's all I remember.
Right.
So that's important. And the hero of my travels. At first I thought it was Rome, but like China ranks now too.
Yeah?
No villain there.
Nice.
I am in. I will go and I will haggle and I will revisit and I will bite dumplings, but first, drink the soup, and which is a metaphor for life. People don't just bite into life.
Drink the soup.
Drink the soup first. Does that sound dirty?
I think it does a little bit. It's fine.
Oh, man. Well, you and I are going to do a lot more of these because you're good at this.
Oh, no, this is great. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for not having me just talk about China to all the listeners by myself, where I would have sounded like a stark raving lunatic. At least with you, it sounds like 2 stark raving lunatics.
Right, and then it's not our fault because it's genetics, clearly. Clearly, it's insane genetics.
He's not mad. Everything's just cuter when it's a set. That's what people think. One ugly shoe is like nasty, but 2 ugly shoes become trendy, just like that.
Everything good comes in pairs, I guess.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
well, thank you for being the heel to my pump, Mr. Paul Celestin. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. You've heard it now. You've been to China with us. Do you feel like you were there?
I do.
All right, well, we're going to jump out and get back into our daycation. I'm going to haggle a bunch of crap and then have Paul fight for it.
Yes.
But you guys, enjoy your life, enjoy your day, enjoy your week, enjoy your month, have a great year. Go out and please, if you will, find your smile. So long, Paul Celestin. And there it is. Welcome to my life so far. You'd think by now I'd be a star. I may be long-winded, but hey, there's just so much I have to say. Maybe lick your lips when you're hungry. Maybe drop your head when you're sorry. Maybe shake a bit when you're worried. That's